What's going on, guys? Chase on Two Wheels here for the first official, technically episode 2, of our Learn How to Ride a Motorcycle series. We have Yamaha's beautiful R7 and we have the MT-07 to show you guys how to ride on these motorcycles. This is episode 2, and what we are going to be going over is all of the controls on the motorcycle. If you're watching this video, I imagine you have never ridden a motorcycle before. Don't worry, by the end of this series, we will have you guys ready to get on two wheels. So if you've never ridden a motorcycle before, there are a lot of controls, and it could be a little daunting if you have never done that before. You know, you got to deal with this thing like a clutch, and you got to shift, and how do you shift? When do you shift? We're not going to cover that today, but what we're going to go over is every single thing on this motorcycle that you as the rider are going to need to know. By the end of this video, this button, this lever, this thing, you'll know everything. Trust me, I got you. Now, before we get going and going over every single one of these, I gotta let you guys know, if you are wanting to watch every episode in this series, we're gonna have a description link to a playlist. In that playlist, you will find episodes 1 through 5. We have 5 episodes planned. We are gonna do those for you guys. So if you wanna watch every one of them, I highly recommend you guys check out the playlist down below. Now, we would not be able to do this series if it wasn't for our friends over at Progressive. So, I'm going to talk about Progressive real quick. One, because they're my favorite motorcycle insurance company. Secondly, because they're sponsoring this entire series. So, let's talk about Progressive real quick, and then we'll get into breaking all of these controls down for you guys. So guys, like I said, this series is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. They are my absolute favorite motorcycle insurance company. Fun fact, I have had Progressive since the very beginning of me riding a motorcycle. I have had wrecks, I have had bikes stolen, and Progressive has always had my back. I can authentically tell you guys that, because if it wasn't for them and replacing all the stolen bikes and the wrecked bikes that I've always had to deal with, I don't even know if I'd be riding at this point. So huge shout out to Progressive. Thank you guys for sponsoring this video. And if you guys want to get a free quote for motorcycle insurance from Progressive, down below. Again, my most highly recommended motorcycle insurance company. Thank you for Progressive for sponsoring this video. Let's get into some motorcycle controls, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get going, and because we're going to go over every single control, I want to give you guys a little cheat code. Every motorcycle, this works for every single one of them. If you cut this motorcycle in half, if you look at all the controls on the right side, it's all going to be about going and stopping. Progressing the motorcycle forward, bringing the motorcycle to a stop. If you look on the left side of the motorcycle, all of the controls are going to be your gearing. It's going to be your clutch, your gear shifter. On the right side, it's going to be throttle and brakes. That works for every single motorcycle, and that's a way to kind of split the motorcycle in half to help you guys understand what is going on each side. So, that's your cheat code, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go through every single one of these. Alright guys, now before we get to the sides of the motorcycle, I want to handle the middle first. So, obviously, we have the key. Most of you guys probably know what a key does, but the motorcycle is a little different. We have 3 positions. We have on, we have off, and we have lock. Obviously, off, the motorcycle is off, nothing's happening. We hit the on switch, we get a lit up tack. We can see some stuff. We'll get into the tack in a minute. But we also have one other thing over here. We have off, and then if we push and go to lock, we can lock it. But if you notice, the key will not go all the way to lock. With a motorcycle, you have to turn your handlebars all the way to the side, and then watch, key goes to the lock position. If I take the key out, my handlebars can't go anywhere. This way, if you park your motorcycle, you can lock your handlebars, and hypothetically, somebody could push it in a circle if they wanted to, but this is the best way to lock your motorcycle. If we push it back to off, we can now move our motorcycle around. Before we get to the tack, let's talk about the mirrors. All motorcycles have 2 mirrors because it's a legal thing, and you guys need to know what's going on behind you. If we mount the motorcycle here, we can see behind us on our left side here. We can see behind us on our right side here. Don't worry, if you're looking in your mirror and you see the majority of your body and it covers up half the mirror, that is very common for motorcycles. Most of them are terrible, so just a heads up for you guys. Okay, so let's turn the key to the on position and let's check out your tack. Now, guys, this is going to be different on every single motorcycle. Some motorcycles have the same tack, most of them don't. On this specific, we're on the 2022 Yamaha R7. We've got our miles per hour, a clock. We've got our total odometer miles. This bike has a optional quick shifter. That's what QS stands for. This is our tach. This is going to let us know what RPM or rotations per minute that our engine is spinning at. And conveniently, we have a gear indicator and a fuel gauge. And we literally just got an extra bar of fuel. It's probably because I brought the bike up. So that's what it looks like on this bike. So I'm going to go jump on the MT-07 and show you guys what the tach looks on there. They're kind of similar, but they are a little different. All right, guys, we're here on the MT-07, and as you guys can see, this is our rotations per minute. This is our RPM, also called our tach. We have our miles per hour. We have we don't have much gas left at all, but we have a gas gauge. We have a gear indicator. So that's the tach. That's how they look slightly different. But as you guys can see, generally you're going to have the same information. Now, keep in mind, the more technologically advanced your bike is, the more information you're probably going to see on your dash here. Keep in mind, like, it's going to be different for every single manufacturer, but that's the tach. That's what you're going to be looking at. This is all the important stuff. How fast are you going? What gear are you in? And how fast is your engine rotating? That should be it for here. We'll talk more about this later in the episodes, but that's it for now. Alright guys, so that's your center. Let's move to the right side. And as I told you guys, the right side is the go and the stop side. For this side, this little red button, it's red on every single motorcycle, that is your kill switch. This is the kill switch being in the off position. This is the kill switch engaged position. This button right here, if I press it in, nothing's going to happen. I'll tell you guys why in a minute. That would typically start your motorcycle. On this specific R7, we have hazards, so if we click this over, we will have both indicators actually lighting up in case you're in an emergency situation. We'll put the kill switch back to the off position. There might be a situation, especially if you have a newer motorcycle, that your kill switch and your start button doesn't look like this. But fear not, my friends. We've got our beautiful little MT-07, so let's jump over there, and I want to show you guys what the kill switch looks like on that bike, because they are slightly different. Again, this is the R7. This is old school, kind of typical what a kill switch and a start button looks like, but I want to show you guys what it looks like over here. All right, guys, so here on the MT-07, it's slightly different, right? We have everything integrated. We've still got our hazard lights here, but here's how, and it even tells you stop, run, and start. The way this is going to work is it's in the, stop position here. If you notice, we hit it to the run position, but it's still got some room. If we hit it to start, watch what happens when I let it go. It kind of comes back. So we'll get into this in the how to start the motorcycle episode, but you are going to crank this motorcycle up. You'll hit it to run, push it down to start, let it go, and it will stay in run. This is the exact same as over here, popping it into the run position and then pressing the start switch. This is the same as pressing that switch down. That's the only differences, but I don't know what motorcycle you guys are on. That should cover almost every bike out there, though. Moving over here, ladies and gentlemen, this is your throttle. If I turn it back, that would typically be increasing the motorcycle speed. Here, we have our front brake lever. Now, this lever is going to actuate the front brake on the front wheel only and slow the bike down. You guys can just pull it in here. Some of these some bikes have an adjustable lever, so you can adjust how far out it is. If you guys see a little turny wheel on your lever in this area, that's what that is. All it is adjusting where your lever is, so that way you can have it more comfortable for you. If we move down the motorcycle, we have your rear brake. This, if you push it down, obviously your foot will be about right here, pressing it down. That is going to work the rear brake on your rear tire. It's going to slow your rear tire down. If you guys could imagine, if the bike was floating in the air and both wheels were rotating, if you pull this in, your front wheel will stop. If you push this down, your rear wheel will stop. Obviously, friction and stuff, it's not going to happen like that until we have hover bikes. But also, final thing, we have the passenger pegs. Most bikes have these, unless you're on like a race bike or something. But if you guys listen, it kind of clicks into position. If you don't have passenger on, I highly recommend you keep this off. That way you're not going to hit it with your foot or anything like that. Passenger seat where a passenger would go. And that is all the controls on the right side. So guys, before we move to the other side, I do want to mention something, and we're going to talk about this more later in other episodes, because I just want to go over the controls for you guys in this episode. When it comes to braking on motorcycles, this front brake is going to be what you use for 70% of your braking. You're supposed to use 30% on the rear brake. So that means if you're coming to a stop, you need to use 70% up here, 30% up here, but you want to use them at the same time. We're not going to get into advanced techniques of when to use the rear brake and when to use the front brake in like a hard braking situation. That's kind of outside of the range of what we're going to be talking about in this How to Ride series. I just want you guys to understand the vast majority of the time you're using the front brake, okay? Rear brake is kind of like a secondary type situation. But that right there, ladies and gentlemen, all the controls on the right side of the motorcycle. Let's move over to the left side. All right, ladies and gents, we are here on the left side of the R7 now to go over the left side controls. Like I told you guys, this is the gearing side. So we will start off with the clutch. Now, the clutch is a very complicated subject. Don't worry, we're going to be covering it in detail in the next episode. For all you guys need to know at this point, pulling the clutch lever in essentially is going to disengage the motor from the transmission. If you think of them as together, pulling that clutch in separates them. So it does not matter. You can rev this thing to infinity and beyond. If you have this clutch pulled in, you are going nowhere because you have separated the engine from the transmission. Nothing's happening. Keep this in mind, and we'll talk about this in later episodes, but this is your safety switch. If you ever get worried about something, just pull the clutch in. You won't go anywhere. You'll come to a rolling stop. All right, guys, so moving on to the other controls. I know you guys probably saw this throttle handlebar moving. This handlebar does not move. This thing is stable, not going anywhere. Moving on, we have a pass button. Now, not all motorcycles are going to have a pass button, but this one specifically does. The MT-07 has a pass button as well. All bikes will have this. This is your high beam, low beam. You're going to flip that up for high beam, down for low beam. We have a blinker button here. So we're going to get to go left, obviously, for the left blinker. We're going to hit right for the right blinker. And then if we want to cancel either blinker, you guys can see the button even says it. It says off. So if we press it, the blinkers will go off. For this specific model and the MT-07, if the blinkers engage, which it is right now, if we click off, we actually get a little tactile feel. But now that the blinker's off, there's no tactile feel. It just kind of presses in, kind of cool little feature that the Yamaha bike has. Next up, we have the horn. Now, if the bike is off, horn does nothing. If the bike was on, the horn would sound. And finally, we have our tack control button. So this is kind of where bikes are going to diverge out. Again, if you have a motorcycle that has a lot of a really cool technology package, maybe say like a Ducati Panigale, this area is going to look a lot different because this is where you could have stuff like cruise control or setting your controls on your motorcycle, like all the electronic, maybe dialing up your ABS or your traction control. Most of the time it's going to be controlled over here. Different manufacturers put them in different ways. One of the reasons I wanted to show you guys how to ride on simple motorcycles like this is because this is kind of the bare minimum. These are the necessary things you're going to need and that every motorcycle is going to have. And then all it's going to do, all manufacturers are going to have is additions to what you're seeing right here. So I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. We'll turn the bike on. And now, if you guys notice the little odometer thing, right? We're going to press this gray button. You're going to notice that changes to air. The air temperature around the bike is currently 87 degrees Fahrenheit. If we click through, we've got 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the actual motorcycle temperature. We have the average miles per gallon, 48.1, regular miles per gallon. We have a trip, which is going to just basically calculate how many miles, and then you can reset that trip if you want. If we hold this button up, that goes to 0. So now we've reset trip 2, go up, trip 1, and then we're back to the odometer. So if you guys want to cycle through information, that is what this button does. And it's also used to reset your trips. You can see RES, that's reset for the trip that you're on. Guys, I think that's all for the controls up here. We'll turn the bike off and I'll show you guys here on the side. Final controls. We have obviously that passenger peg, the left side that I was talking about. And this is your gear shifter. So you're going to press it down. If the bike was in gear, I'd show you. But down is first gear. You're going to do a half click up to neutral. And then it's going to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This specific motorcycle has 6 gears. Some motorcycles have 5. Totally depends on the bike you're on. We will talk way more about gear shifting in the next episode. We're going to talk about how the gear shifting goes with the clutch and how to do that and how to get the bike actually rolling. But I didn't want to cover that before I show you guys how to crank the bike up for the first time and all that kind of stuff. So as you guys can see, we're trying to parse out all of this information because if you're riding for the first time, if you've never ridden before, this is a lot of information. So we're trying not to cover too much at one time. All right, guys, the final control here in the controls video is the thing that is making sure these motorcycles are staying upright. That is that little metal bar at the bottom. That is called a kickstand. If I push the motorcycle up, you guys can hear it. Kickstand up. This is in your riding position. If I kick it down, bike will stand up on the kickstand. Now, something cool to note, we'll talk more about this in the starting episode and the subsequent moving episodes on the motorcycle. All bikes are not able to be started if the kickstand is down and the bike is in any gear other than neutral. I'll show you guys. You guys can see, kickstand down, bike is on. Let's see what gear we're in. We're in first gear. Nothing. Clicking into neutral. Bike cranks up. I wonder what happens. Look at that. First gear. Bike dies. Stuff to note, guys. And we'll cover how to crank the bike up. I know I just did that, and you guys were like, wait, you didn't show me how. Don't worry, we're going to handle that in another episode, so I can talk you guys slowly through that process. So, guys, that's going to be the end of our first episode of How to Ride. Hopefully at this point you have a better grasp of all the controls you have to handle as a motorcyclist. Now, before you guys go on to the next episode, if you need to rewatch this video, please rewatch this video because every episode moving forward, I'm going to proceed as if you guys know all the controls. You don't have to memorize them, but you need to have a very good understanding of what controls you have access to, and that way you can kind of just speed through the episodes on how to ride. As a rider, you are going to be dealing with almost every one of the controls I showed you every single time you go ride. It is imperative that you guys know all of these before we move on. So, feel free to watch the episode a couple times if you need to. Make some notes. I highly recommend that. And hopefully, now that we've gone over it, you guys have a much better understanding of, your whole control pad, what you're dealing with as a rider. So that's going to be it for this episode 2, guys. On the next episode, we are going to be getting on the motorcycle. We are going to be getting the bike in neutral. We're going to talk about neutral and why it's a super important gear technically. And then we're going to get the bike cranked up for the first time. And I've also got some tips for you guys to learn the weight of the motorcycle before we really get riding. It's going to be super important. I think you guys are going to learn a ton of stuff if you have never ridden before. And again, if you want to watch that episode or any of the other episodes in this season, in the description, we're going to have a playlist. It'll say Learn How to Ride Motorcycle playlist. Click that. You will be able to see every episode in this entire series. The next one will be number 3. So guys, I'm Chaseontwowheels. Thank you so much for watching this video. I look forward to riding safe with you guys whenever we learn how to ride the motorcycles. And we'll see you on the next one. If you learned something or enjoyed this video, please do us a favor, hit that like button. And if you got some buddies you're trying to ride with, share this video out, man. I got to tell you, riding is so much fun when you have people to ride with. So I highly recommend share these videos out. Get a lot of your buddies riding. You guys all get bikes together and have a really good time on 2 wheels. Thanks to Progressive for sponsoring the video. Oh, I guess I should probably say subscribe for motorcycle content because you're learning to be a motorcyclist. Welcome to the 2 Wheel Life, fam. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Later. Hey, if you're still watching the video, welcome. You are officially in what I call the outro crew. All that means is, to me, is that you watched through my entire video as that Jeep just went over a curb. Are they going to continue to go over the curb? Anyway, back to the outro crew. Guys, if you made it to the outro crew, thank you so much for watching the entire video. It helps the channel out so much. Here's what I want you to do. 1, I know you've already hit that like button, right? Thank you very much. Secondly, I want you to drop a comment down below. And when you put a comment down below, put OC in your comment. That stands for Outro Crew, which is hilarious because all the people that aren't in the Outro Crew always ask, what does OC in the comments mean? We're going to keep that between us. But guys, tell me something that you learned in this video in the comments down below. I look forward to seeing you guys there, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.